You think you're just not a confident person, that some people are born bold and you weren't. But look at your life for a second. You're in a meeting. You know exactly what needs to be said. Your brain is screaming the answer and your mouth locks shut. Someone less competent, less experienced, says a watered-down version of your idea with full confidence and gets the praise you wanted. You see someone attractive, your chest tightens, and before you even move, a quiet sentence fires in your head. I'm not that guy. Your feet stay planted, the moment passes, and you pretend you didn't care. You're handed an opportunity, a new project, a promotion, a chance to move, and the first thought that appears is, I'm not ready. You decline for now, and then you're forced to watch other people with half your brain and twice your self-belief take what could have been yours. These are not random confidence failures. They are the consistent output of a weak identity, a script running in the background that tells you who you are, what you deserve, and what you're allowed to reach for. That script was written for you by parents, teachers, failures, and shame, and your brain has been obeying it like law. Machiavelli wrote that men judge more by appearances than by reality. You've been doing that to yourself internally. You don't see your actual potential. You only see the appearance of yourself that your weak identity projects, and you submit to it. Here's the truth most people never hear. Your identity is not sacred. It's programmable. There is a brain-level hack, an identity protocol that can kill this old script and install a new one. Not cheesy affirmations, not fake alpha posturing. A deliberate way to change who sits on the throne inside your head. If you don't rewrite that identity, you will replay the same scenes for the next 20 years, just in different rooms with higher stakes. Most men die still believing the story about themselves they formed at 16. You don't have to. This video will show you how to stop being the servant of your own identity and become its architect. But before we start hacking your mind, we need to talk about power and responsibility, because if you get this wrong, you don't become strong, you just become toxic. Toxic to yourself, toxic to the people who trusted you, and still secretly weak underneath the act. That is not the path here. The path is cold, disciplined power built from the inside out for you. When you hear the words brain hack and Machiavelli together, your guard should go up. You think of manipulation, narcissists, fake personas, people who treat psychology like a weapon. Good. That suspicion is healthy. But understand this, Machiavelli didn't invent cruelty. He described how power and perception actually move. Ignoring that doesn't make life kinder. It just leaves you defenseless in a game everyone else is already playing. There's a hard line you have to draw. Unethical use of this knowledge is simple. Hack how other people see you so you can exploit them. Lie, posture, seduce, abandon. That path exists. The ethical use is different. You hack how you see yourself so you finally stop being easy to use. You reprogram your self-perception so guilt, fear, and shame don't run your life. You are not here to become a sociopath. You are here to stop being an emotional punching bag for bosses, partners, friends, family, anyone who benefits from the weaker version of you. Machiavelli wrote that a man must learn how not to be good when necessity forces him. For you, that doesn't mean becoming evil. It means learning how not to be naive when life turns ruthless. This brain hack will let you choose a stronger identity, but it will never choose your morals for you. That's your responsibility. Refusing to learn how your mind can be programmed doesn't make you authentic. It makes you programmable by everyone else. Powerful people already use identity deliberately. If you don't, you're the only one in the game walking blind. To rewrite your identity, you first need to see how the weak version was installed in the first place. That you weren't born saying, "I'm shy, I'm not a leader," or "I'm just bad with people." Those lines were handed to you, repeated around you, and eventually spoken by you, until they felt like truth. As a child, you were rewarded for being easy to handle, nice, quiet, humble. When you were loud, intense, or defiant, the energy in the room changed. You heard, "Don't brag, who do you think you are?" Be realistic. You learned very quickly which version of you got love and which version got shamed. So, you trained yourself to be the acceptable version. Your brain helped. It wants coherence and safety above almost everything. It builds a picture of who we are and then filters the world to keep that picture intact, even if it's killing your potential. If your self-image says, "I'm not the type who speaks up," you will feel physical tension in your throat the moment you try. When you stay quiet, your brain rewards you with relief. See? That's not us. We're safe again. If your script says, "I don't get the girl," you will notice every rejection and ignore every subtle sign of interest. The identity stays confirmed. Over time, these scripts harden into stone. I'm not ambitious. I can't lead. I overthink everything. You stop seeing them as options and start defending them as personality. The naive view is, "This is just who I am." The Machiavellian view is, "This is who I was trained to be because it made me easier to manage." Machiavelli observed that people are shaped by their institutions, and rulers, families, schools, and cultures do the same thing on a smaller scale. They don't sit around plotting your weakness, but they do prefer you predictable, non-threatening, and manageable. A child who questions, pushes, and demands more is harder to control. So life nudges you again and again toward a domesticated self, polite, compliant, conflict-averse, grateful for scraps. Then it tells you that's your true identity. Here is the dark truth. Your identity is not sacred. It is software. It was coded by repetition, emotion, and reward. If you never question who wrote that code, you will spend your whole life defending a version of yourself built to keep you small. Most people protect their conditioning like it's their soul and pay for that mistake with wasted decades. If identity is software, the real question is simple and dangerous. Who should be writing the code from now on? This is where Machiavelli's idea of the prince stops being history and starts becoming an inner framework. Once you see it that way, the guilt about changing yourself starts to die. You stop asking, "Is it fake to become different?" and start asking, "Is it smart to keep obeying code written by scared, smaller people?" That shift is the beginning of real inner rebellion and mental chains that you keep talking about your mind like it's one thing. "I feel, I think, I am." That's an illusion. Inside you is not a single voice, but a whole kingdom. Fear wants safety at any cost. Desire wants stimulation now. Anger wants revenge. Logic wants structure. Old trauma wants to avoid pain. New ambition wants to move forward. These are factions, and like any state, they need a ruler. Right now, For most people, the one sitting on the throne is the inner servant, the timid, obedient part of you that was trained to keep the peace and never risk too much. Every decision is filtered through him. Will they be upset? Will I look stupid? Is this too much for someone like me? Machiavelli wrote that a prince must control his state, manage competing interests, and project a strong image, or he loses order and respect. He also warned that a wise prince relies on his own arms and his own judgment, not the promises of others. Apply that inside your own head. When your weak identity rules, every part of you is forced to obey its limits. Your creativity finds reasons not to start. Your intelligence writes long essays explaining why you can't change yet. Your empathy becomes an excuse to tolerate disrespect. The servant identity asks, is this allowed? Will they like me? Will I get in trouble? Prince identity asks, does this serve my principles? Does this strengthen or weaken my long-term position? Same mind, different ruler. If you let the wrong ruler sit on your internal throne, your entire life is governed by fear and habit instead of strategy. Most men never realize their mind has a throne at all, so someone else's voice parents, culture, past humiliation rules it by default. The brain hack you're about to learn is not about pretending to be a different person. It is about consciously choosing who sits on that throne and forcing the other parts of you to take orders from a stronger center. You are going to dethrone the servant and install an inner prince, an apex strategist identity that thinks long-term, moves with intent, and refuses to let fear or guilt write its laws. From this moment, every serious choice you face will be answered by that prince, not the servant, and your entire inner state will shift in your favor. You don't change your life by waiting to feel different. You change it by changing. Who makes the decisions in your head? That's what this identity inversion protocol does. It takes the servant off the throne and forces your brain to start acting as if the inner prince were already in power. There are 4 steps, and if you actually use them, your behavior will change before your emotions catch up. Step 1 is brutal honesty. Expose your weak scripts. Take a pen and write the sentence, I am the kind of person who then finish it without trying to sound impressive. I am the kind of person who avoids conflict, who overthinks messages, who backs down when challenged, who says yes when I want to say no, who waits for permission. It will sting to see it in ink. Good. These are not facts about your soul. They are old orders from the servant on the throne. Every time you say, I'm just socially awkward, or I don't like confrontation, you're not describing reality. You're reciting instructions. Picture yourself at a social event. Your script was awkward, so you stand on the edge, scroll your phone, avoid eye contact. Because you didn't engage, you feel disconnected and weird. Then you go home and say, see, I told you I'm awkward. The script creates the behavior, then the behavior proves the script. That loop is what we are here to sabotage. Step 2 is to design your apex archetype. Ask yourself a question most people never ask. Who is the version of me that even I would respect? Not a superhero, not a cartoon alpha, but the real, upgraded me. How does he handle tension? How does he speak? What does he refuse to tolerate? Write that down too. He is calm under pressure. He speaks when it actually matters, instead of talking to fill silence. He walks away from disrespect the first time. He calculates instead of reacting. He chooses long-term advantage over short-term ego. Give this archetype a name so it stops being vague. Call it the strategist, the sovereign, the apex thinker, whatever hits you. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must appear decisive, bold, and self-reliant to be taken seriously. Your archetype is your inner prince, built on those qualities in a form that fits your life. Now, step 3, the what would he do? Simulation. This is the core of the hack. In any triggering situation, your nervous system screams for the old script. Instead of asking, what do I feel like doing? You interrupt with, what would my apex do here? That single question bypasses your fearful identity and forces your brain to simulate a different pattern. Your boss is underpaying you. The weak script hisses, be grateful, don't make trouble. The apex version would calmly present his value, state what he wants, and be willing to walk if the answer is disrespect. So you act one step closer to that. You book the meeting, you bring numbers, you speak like the strategist, even if your hands shake. Or you see someone you're attracted to. The servant says, I'm not that guy. The apex asks, what's one simple line I could open with? And then walks over and uses it without dissecting every possible outcome. You're not promising perfection. You're forcing your body to collect new evidence. Finally, step 4, align through micro-actions. You do not need to become this person overnight. Identity isn't switched like a profile picture. It is rebuilt like muscle. Each time you take even one small action, your apex would take, your brain has to reconsider its file on you. Maybe we're not the guy who always avoids conflict. Maybe we're the guy who sometimes looks people in the eye and says no. Identity is built by repeated behavior. One boundary, one honest no, one conversation you would normally dodge, one firm decision instead of 10 hours of overthinking. That's enough to start rewriting your internal reputation. This is why I call it a hack. You're not sitting around trying to generate confidence feelings first. You're changing the decision maker in your head and letting your feelings recalibrate afterward. Machiavelli cared about appearances and actions because they shape reputation. The same is true inside you. Your brain watches what you do and updates who it believes you are. You might feel resistance and tell yourself, this feels fake. Understand something. Your weak identity is also fake. It's just old. It was a costume you were forced to wear for so long that you started mistaking it for your skin. You are not pretending to be someone else when you act as your apex. You are giving your better self a chance to exist in reality, instead of just in fantasies. If you only act when you finally feel confident, you may wait for years. If you use this protocol, you start running the apex script now, and your emotions are dragged along behind your actions like a prisoner. Most men never consciously design an identity. They improvise as victims, reacting to whatever the world throws at them and calling the result me. This is how you stop doing that. This is how you become that author instead. The more often you expose a weak script, choose your archetype, run the what would he do simulation, and take one aligned action, the more your inner prince takes the throne for good. And once he does, the world starts negotiating with a different man, even if you have the same face and the same name. That is the quiet moment where confidence stops being something you chase and becomes the default language of your actions. You will still feel fear, doubt, and pressure, but they will no longer vote on what you do. The prince listens, evaluates, and decides. The servant panics. Your job from now on is to stop letting the servant interrupt. That is how ruthless identity is built permanently. You think confident men don't feel fear. That's the first lie your weak identity sold you. It feels fear and immediately translates it into a command. Stop. Hide. Stay small. When your heart starts pounding, when your throat tightens, the servant on the throne whispers, "See, you're not meant for this." So you back off, and your brain files that moment as proof that retreat equals safety. Same sensation, same body, same situation, but a different ruler inside gives it a different meaning. For an apex identity, fear is not a red light. It's a flashing sign that says, this is the edge of growth. Move carefully, not backward. The heart racing, the tension in your chest, the buzzing in your limbs are just energy. Under the servant, that energy becomes panic. Under the prince, that energy becomes fuel and focus. Machiavelli wrote that a wise prince expects danger and betrayal. He is never shocked when misfortune appears, only prepared. He treats risk as the cost of ruling, not a signal that he should abdicate. Your apex self does the same emotionally. He expects pressure. He expects setbacks. So when they arrive, he does not turn on himself. Look at rejection. The weak identity hears, "You're worthless, don't try again." The apex identity hears, "Data, wrong fit, keep moving." Embarrassment. The servant says, "You're exposed, never risk that again." The prince says, "Good, now we've found a weak point to train." Criticism. The weak script panics, "They're attacking me." The apex filters, "Is this useful intel or just noise?" If it's useful, I adapt. If it's noise, I discard it. Imagine you run the brain hack and finally speak up in a meeting. Your idea gets dismissed. The room moves on. Under the old identity, you spiral on the drive home, replaying every word, deciding you'll stay silent next time. Under the apex identity, you log it. Maybe the timing was wrong. Maybe your delivery was weak. Maybe the room was threatened. You adjust one variable, and you speak again in the next meeting. No collapse. No identity crisis. Emotional control is not numbness. You still feel the sting, the heat, the adrenaline. The difference is what story you attach to it. If you don't control that story, your old identity will use every feeling as evidence that you should stay small. Most men think confidence means feeling no fear. Real confidence is knowing exactly what to do with fear when it shows up, acknowledge it, translate it, and move anyway. That is emotional armor, not a shield that blocks all impact, but a disciplined general deciding what each blow means. Once your inner prince learns this, the world still hits you, but it never again gets to command you inside. Real power doesn't scream. You've seen loud, fake confidence before. The guy who brags about everything, interrupts everyone, dominates conversations because he's terrified of silence. That's not strength. That's insecurity on a microphone. Silent, ruthless confidence moves differently. It doesn't need to announce itself. It shows up in calm eye contact, fewer words, and decisive moves when it's time to act. In the workplace, the naive identity over-explains every point, fills pauses with nervous chatter, laughs too hard at weak jokes, and quietly accepts extra work to look helpful. The apex identity listens more than he speaks. When he talks, he gets to the point, asks direct questions, and lets silence do half the work. When the boss tries to dump another urgent task on him, he says, "Here's my current workload. What should I deprioritize?" Calm, firm, no apology. In dating and social life, the naive identity chases. Texts constantly, double and triple messages. Changes opinions, humor, even values just to stay liked. The apex initiates, but then he observes. If the energy coming back is lukewarm or inconsistent, he doesn't beg for it to warm up. He pulls back. He would rather walk alone with his standards than be surrounded with weak validation. In conflict, the naive identity either avoids it completely or explodes when resentment overflows. The apex addresses issues early, in a low voice, with specific language. "This happened. Here's how it affects me. Here's what needs to change." He aims at outcomes, not drama. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must appear composed and decisive, even in storms, because panic at the top spreads like disease. Your apex self applies that law in every room you enter. These are not cheap tricks, no forced power poses, no memorized lines. They are the natural behavior of a different ruler in your head. If your external behavior never changes, the world will keep treating you like the weak identity you used to obey. Most people chase tactics and body language hacks. Without identity, all of it looks fake. With identity, you barely need any of it because who you are leaks out of every small action. At that point, confidence stops performing and simply becomes how you move daily. Identity integration, becoming the apex strategist. For most of your life, you played a role you never consciously chose. You said sorry before anyone accused you. You narrated your existence as the underdog, the overlooked one, the almost guy, the one who would have if things were different. That was the domesticated identity doing exactly what it was built to do, keep you small, predictable, and grateful. You no longer see yourself as a passenger. You see yourself as the strategist of your own life. You look at days, weeks, and years like positions on a chessboard, not random chaos. You evaluate moves. If I say yes here, what power do I lose? If I say no here, what leverage do I gain? A strategist shapes the board over time instead of reacting to every piece in front of him. That's who you are training yourself to be. Give this identity a name you carry in your head. Apex thinker, strategically intelligent, emotionally untouchable, sovereign mind. These are not fantasies. They are job descriptions. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must rely on his own arms and his own judgment, or he is doomed. For you, that means you no longer outsource your identity to parents, partners, friends, or society. You decide who you are, and you prove it through action. This isn't about thinking you're perfect or pretending you never fall. It's about seeing yourself as the kind of person who adapts, learns, and never willingly crawls back to the old script. Most people never consciously choose an identity. Once you see yourself as sovereign, begging for approval starts to feel disgusting. Identity is not real until it's tested. Now you need proof in the real world that this isn't just talk, it's who you are becoming. For the next 7 days, you're going to prove to yourself that this isn't just theory. This is the apex experiment. Pick one arena: work, relationships, or self-discipline. That's your battlefield. Day 0 is prep. Sit down and write your weak scripts in that area. I am the kind of person who and finish it honestly. Then write your apex archetype for that same area, how he thinks, speaks, and moves. Days 1 through 7, you run the identity inversion protocol in real time. Every time a decision point appears, you pause briefly and ask, what would my apex do here? Not, what do I feel like? But, what would he choose? Then you take one concrete action per day that matches that answer. Set a boundary. Speak up once. Say no once. Start the thing you've been avoiding. Walk away from one disrespectful situation. Each night, journal what happened. Where did it feel fake? Where did it feel frightening? Where did you surprise yourself? How did people react when you showed up as a version of you? Discomfort is not a sign you're failing. It's the sensation of old neural pathways dying. If you skip this, your brain will file this video under interesting and dump you back into default mode. 7 days of deliberate identity practice will do more for your confidence than 7 years of motivation. Your weak identity wasn't an accident. It was installed to keep you manageable. Parents, teachers, culture, and your own fears wrote a script that made you easier to control, easier to overlook. Today, you've seen that script for what it is, and you've learned a brain hack, the identity inversion protocol that lets you kill it and install an apex strategist identity instead. Remember the frame. The goal is not to become a villain. The goal is to stop being prey. Your new power exists to protect your time, sharpen your decisions, and harden your boundaries, not to play games with people who trust you. Machiavelli said, a man must learn how not to be good when necessity forces him. For you, that means learning how not to be naive when reality gets dark, while still choosing your own standards of honor. The world will keep trying to sell you a weak identity, compliant worker, apologetic partner, domesticated citizen. Your brain is the battlefield. This hack is how you take it back. If this finally made your programming visible, going back to your old identity is no longer ignorance. It's a choice. So make a different one. Comment an affirmation that locks in who you are now, like my mind is sovereign, or I think like an apex strategist. Tell me which arena you'll use for your 7-day apex experiment work, relationships, or self-discipline. And if you want more dark, ethical strategy and identity work, subscribe and stay. .my identity is my weapon. I think like an apex strategist. I kill weak scripts and act with precision. I choose identity over insecurity. My mind is sovereign, not programmable by others. I act like the man I respect. Fear is data. I move anyway. Drop this in the comments if you're done with your old identity. My mind is sovereign. Tell me in the comments, in which area will you run the 7-day apex experiment work, relationships, or self-discipline? Comment, I see the script now, if this finally showed you how your weak identity has been running your life.